His body was burned to ashes from the inside out. Then how did he survive? 3 days earlier, the wind whistled through the ancient tree canopies, carrying the strong, humid scent of damp earth and decay from the Amazon rain. Elias Thorne, with his weathered appearance, sharp eyes and rifle slung over his shoulder, pushed through the undergrowth, venturing deep into uncharted territory. He was not a scientist or a biologist. Elias was a hunter, a seeker of thrills and rare trophies. His reputation preceded him not only for his marksmanship, but also for his chilling crew. To Elias, the lives of animals were merely a means to satisfy primal instincts and assert human dominance. This time, however, the hunt was proving unusually challenging. For 3 days, Elias's expedition consisted of himself and 2 indigenous guides, who always wore reserved and apprehensive expressions, had struggled with the difficult terrain. Provisions were running low, and fatigue began to set in. One late afternoon, as the golden sunlight pierced through the leaves, creating ethereal streaks of light, Elias spotted a small, slender antelope caught in a makeshift trap set by nearby natives. The animal struggled desperately, its large, glistening eyes filled with terror as it looked at him. The 2 guides, an elderly man named Kale and a young man named Rio, rushed over. Kale, with his silver hair and deep wrinkles etched on his face, looked at Elias with anxious eyes. "Sir Thorne," he said with a trembling voice, "please do not harm it. This animal, it is the spirit of the forest. Our ancestors believed that killing it brings calamity." Elias smirked. "Your superstitions don't scare me, Kale. We need food, and I don't have time to waste on a quick kill." Rio, the younger man, looked pale. But, sir, it's still alive. Burning it alive, that's a sin." Elias ignored their pleas. He was accustomed to such complaints. To him, they were just unnecessary weaknesses. He gathered dry wood, piling it high around the trembling antelope. The fire caught quickly, licking at the branches, then flaring up fiercely. The antelope's agonizing cries echoed through the forest, tearing through the stillness of the late afternoon. Rio turned away, tears streaming down his face. Kale closed his eyes, muttering a prayer in his native tongue, his face showing clear signs of pain and fear. Elias stood there, the triumphant smile still on his lips, inhaling the smell of burnt meat. He felt a strange satisfaction watching the flames rise, consuming life. But then a sudden cold gust of wind swept through, carrying a peculiar scent, both pungent and sweet like night-blooming jasmine. The fire's light suddenly turned bluish, dancing eerily. Elias frowned, feeling a shiver run down his spine, a sensation he had never experienced in his past cruel hunts. "Sir Thorne," Kale whispered, his voice full of dread, "that is an omen. The forest spirit is enraged." Elias was about to dismiss these superstitious words, but at that very moment, something horrifying happened. From the still-burning fire, a blurry image appeared. The charred antelope, its eyes staring fixedly at him, no longer showing fear, but instead a deep, burning hatred. Its pained cry seemed to still echo in his ears, now a demonic growl. Elias recoiled, stumbled over a dry branch, and fell. Simultaneously, a fire inexplicably erupted from his own body, not from the external flames, but as if from within his very flesh. Elias screamed in excruciating pain. He tried to put out the fire, rolling on the damp ground, but the flames would not extinguish. They clung to him, burning his flesh, forming terrifying, blistering wounds. Kale and Rhea rushed to help him, but they too were helpless. The ghostly fire only died down when Elias's entire body was covered in severe burns. His skin red, blistered, and festering. He lay there, gasping for breath, his eyes wide open, staring up at the night sky, where the stars twinkled like tears. That was the beginning of the curse of hell. Elias was brought back to the city in critical condition. Doctors could not explain the cause of his burn. They were too deep, too extensive, unlike any burns they had ever seen. It's as if he was burned from the inside out, a doctor whispered, his eyes full of skepticism. Elias survived, but his body was permanently disfigured. Scar tissue crisscrossed his skin, peeling patches, and a dull, constant pain never ceased. More terrifying still were the nightmares. Every night, Elias was haunted by the image of the antelope being burned alive, its agonizing cries and its hateful eyes staring directly at him. Elias's life turned into hell. He was no longer the renowned hunter of old. Physical and mental pain tormented him every single moment. He sought every possible treatment, from modern medicine to traditional remedies, but all were in vain. One day, in despair, he remembered Kel's words about the forest spirit and calamity. A glimmer of hope flickered in his tormented mind. Perhaps this was not an accident, but a punishment. With a determination to find liberation, Elias returned to the Amazon. But this time, not with a gun and hunting intentions, but with a heart full of remorse and hope. He sought out Kale, the old guide who had warned him. Kale, with a sorrowful expression and eyes full of understanding, did not reproach Elias. He listened to Elias's story, then said, "Sir Thorn, the forest has a soul. Every life has value. What you sow, you shall reap." The fire that burned you was not physical fire, but the fire of karma, of the suffering you inflicted on an innocent creature. Kale led Elias to an ancient tribe deep in the forest, where an old shaman named Amara resided, believed to be able to communicate with forest spirits and dissolve karma. Amara, a woman with snow-white hair and eyes shining like fire, looked at Elias with a penetrating gaze. She said not a word, simply placed her hand on his burns. Elias felt a strange energy course through his body, yet the pain remained. "You wish to be healed, but first, you must heal your own soul," Amara said in a raspy yet powerful voice. "You must confront what you have done and atone for your mistakes." In the following months, Elias lived with the tribe, learning to survive in harmony with nature instead of conquering it. Amara guided him through ancient rituals, profound spiritual journeys. He spent hours meditating under ancient trees, listening to the voice of the forest, of the animals. In his dreams, he no longer saw the hateful antelope, but instead images of their peaceful lives, of nature's harmony. One night, during a cleansing ceremony under the moonlight, Amara asked Elias to confess his sins before the entire tribe. Elias, with a trembling voice and tears in his eyes, admitted his cruel actions. He not only spoke of the antelope, but also of countless other creatures he had wantonly killed. When he finished, a sense of relief spread through his body, as if a huge burden had been lifted. Amara looked at him, her eyes full of tenderness. "The fire within you will never completely extinguish, Elias," she said, "but it will no longer consume you. It will become a reminder, a flame of repentance and compassion." Elias's burns did not disappear completely, but they gradually healed, no longer causing the excruciating pain they once did. His skin remained scarred, but no longer festering. More importantly, his soul had healed. Elias Thorn was no longer the cruel hunter he once was. He had become a protector of nature, an animal rights activist. He dedicated the rest of his life to spreading the message of karma, of the need to respect all life. Elias traveled everywhere, telling his story. The story of hellfire that had consumed him, and how he found redemption through repentance and compassion. He founded a wildlife conservation fund and turned the Amazon rainforest, where he had committed his sins, into a sacred preserve. Elias's life was a living testament to the law of karma. He inflicted extreme pain on an innocent creature, and that pain returned to consume him. But it was from that very pain that he found the path to enlightenment and atonement. The scars on his body were no longer an obsession, but a symbol of a life reborn. And every time he looked at them, Elias remembered the curse of the flames and the eternal lesson of life's karma. Lessons at the end of the story. The story of Elias Thorn is a profound reminder of the law of karma, an immutable universal principle. Every action, whether big or small, good or bad, will create a corresponding consequence. The pain Elias endured was not a random punishment, but a direct reflection of his cruel actions. However, it also shows the possibility of redemption.